What's up, guys, and welcome to the one day late Duke Wisdom podcast. Sorry for the late episode. It's supposed to drop on Thursday, but we're in the holiday season and things are getting busy. Things are getting a little bit less busy maybe for Duke basketball. Just two more games for the rest of the calendar year, with Baylor coming up on the 20th and then Queens 10 days later. But Duke did finish up its second consecutive victory, knocking off a pretty formidable foe in Hofstra. Came into the game 7th in the country in three-pointers made, and I think 13th in attempts. Game was kept extremely close early on, and Duke weathered that storm. Very impressively weathered that storm, might I add. In the first half, ended the half on a 7-0 run to claim a lead heading into the break, and then really capitalized in the second half. Really came out, looked like a completely different team. I think the best 20 minutes of basketball Duke has played all season. Probably the best full game Duke has played all season. I mean, they allowed a lot of three-pointers in the first half. There's no doubt about that. Dubar hit 7 of 11 from 3 on the game, which is kind of nuts, but he still only notched his season average of 24 points. The Blue Devils did a fantastic job, ended up winning the game by 21 points, winning the second half by 16 points. A lot to like. And, as usual, I want to go down kind of the player-by-player breakdown. But what I want to talk about, first of all, is that John Scheyer was able to he showed a little edge. John Scheyer showed a little edge, and I think that's what I want to start off this discussion with. Kyle Filipowski, very clearly, and I'll get more into Kyle. 28 points, 12 rebounds, 8 assists. Heck of a day. Ends just 1 point shy of his career high. Obviously, 2 assists shy of a triple-double. Had he notched it, he would have become the 6th Blue Devil of all time to have a triple-double. The other ones that have done so being Art Heyman, Gene Banks, Sheldon Williams on multiple occasions, R.J. Barrett, and Wendell Moore Jr. He, however, also 2 points, 2 assists, would have been the first player in Duke basketball history to have a 30-point triple-double. It could have been stellar, and Flip said himself he knew he was right there on the cusp of that 30-point triple-double. At least he said he knew he was on that cusp of that triple-double. And John Scheyer said, "Look, man, he had plenty of time to get those 2 assists. Don't put that on me." And then Kyle said that he had urged John to keep him in the game, and Scheyer was like, "Well, you're pretty close to a quadruple double with turnovers too," and that humbled him real quick. And I was like, "Man, it's like this. It's like Coach K just embodied John Scheyer's spirit and mind there for a second." That is a very Mike Krzyzewskian comment, without a doubt. So John Scheyer showing a little chip on his shoulder. He's getting a little chippy with him, and I appreciate that. I like that. Shows a different side of Scheyer than I think we're used to seeing. But who knows if Kyle gets another opportunity to put up a day like this. It was absolutely phenomenal. 10 of 16 from the floor, 4 of 7 from 3. That's the most three-pointers he's hit in a single game. He was 4 or 5 from the line. He sort of struggled to shoot it from the line. He's especially struggled to shoot it from 3. His splits were terrific, much better than they've been. 12 boards, that's a great rebounding day for him. 8 assists, obviously, is a career high for him. An assist, I think it was previous high was 5. He also blocked 3 shots. And Kyle Filipowski averages like 1.9 blocks, which is 5th or 6th in the ACC right now. So solid numbers for him defensively as a rim protector, honestly. And then obviously, as well, John Scheyer was right. He was flirting with a quadruple double with turnovers. He had 7 turnovers, so the assist to turnover ratio wasn't exactly helped all that much by Kyle that night. But ultimately, still, what is maybe his best game as a Blue Devil, or at least it is right up there for his best game as a Blue Devil. And it's because of the way he was played. Duke played so much inside-out movement offense. And I don't mean that by the normal dribble penetration, getting you nowhere, kick it back out. Today it was everybody was moving. Everybody was moving, and especially Kyle Filipowski was moving up and down, making himself available at all 3 levels. He wasn't just put in purgatory on the block like he normally is. And it was absolutely wonderful to see Duke's offense working in a way that it's supposed to work in. Because That's how this team's going to thrive. They have 3-point shooters. Jeremy Roach is shooting the ball like an absolute freaking madman. And I'll get more into Jeremy Roach, but he's shooting it. Jared McCain is shooting it. Caleb Foster definitely can. Off the bench, TJ Power. This is a team that's got shooters, man. Kyle Filipowski was a shooter against Hofstra. They got to take advantage of that, and they have to have these play actions where Filipowski is in constant movement, kind of up and down. He cannot remain stagnant on that block, or the offense becomes stagnant, and it just does not work. And that's what we have seen for the first third of the season until this game. And it even seemed that it was 100% that way against Charlotte. And Filipowski had, his rough moments even in this game, but he is going to benefit so much, and the team is going to benefit so much from this play style. And I think it was wonderful seeing this play style. And Kyle Filipowski had one of his best games and really made up for that 5-point effort against Charlotte. I think there's no doubt about that. A quick aside before I talk about the rest of the guys' performances in the Hofstra game. Tyrese Proctor, of course, did not play. Christian Reeves did not play. And I think I talked about it Tuesday, how I think going for a medical red shirt for Reeves would be the best course of action at this point. I still believe that. I think they should go for the medical red shirt. Go ahead and save that year that he was supposed to get last year as a red shirt. And I'll move off that Reeves subject unless some sort of news breaks on it. Tyrese Proctor's still out. They still have not given the full details of the severity of the injury. Scheyer did say that he's having a lot of trouble with movement and stuff, that he's just doing stationary activity and shooting like that. But to me, that sounds like they're not expecting to have Tyrese back by the Baylor game. It would be a little less than 3 weeks after the injury. I don't expect Proctor to be back on the 20th. I'm unsure if he'll be back against Queens. Maybe. Hopefully he'll be back by conference play. This team played well enough without Tyrese Proctor against Hofstra for me to believe that they have a shot at going up against Baylor. Now, I'm going to wait a minute before I really dive in deep on the Baylor topic. So let's get back to the player breakdowns. Mark Mitchell had 14 points. I think that's his second highest scoring performance he's had. But he was just 5 of 16 from the floor. He had 5 offensive rebounds. Most of those were on his own misses. But he was 5 of 16, 0 of 3 from 3. He did go 4 or 5 from the line. 3 still not falling for Mark Mitchell. Ultimately, the layups weren't falling for him either. But what was going right for Mark Mitchell is he's finally become the aggressive offensive player that I've been begging him to be. That he's going into the paint fearlessly. He's being a slasher. He's playing the role he needs to play. I think he could be a little more aggressive, looking for dunks when he's right under the basket instead of just laying it up. But that'll come. That's something that'll come. He had trouble finishing against Hofstra. There's no doubt about that. But ultimately, I think a net positive game for Mark Mitchell in the department of him being aggressive, and even in the midst of all those misses, not being fearful of going up for the next one. And that's something that you really love to see. Caleb Foster with his second consecutive start with the absence of Proctor, the sideline Aussie coach, 28 points 28 minutes for Caleb Foster. He had 9 points. Solid game. He hit a 3-pointer. Nothing crazy, but another solid performance for Foster. Jared McCain continues to get a lot better. 3 of 4 from 3. He's just scorching it from deep. If he can do that in big games, especially against Baylor, Duke is really looking pretty. 5 of 8 from the floor. He ends with 13 points. He's at 9.5 points per game. He keeps playing the way he's playing. He'll become Duke's 5th double-digit scorer per game soon, I would think. So solid game and a really net positive experience for Jared McCain this past week, with the 21-point career high against Charlotte, and then following it up with not a goose egg, not like a 4-point game, but a 13-point game. It's not 20 again. Jared McCain doesn't need to be a consistent 20-point scorer. Absolutely not. But if he can consistently give you, 9 to 15 points, that's ideal. And that's what he did against Hofstra. Jeremy Roach continues to be the senior captain that Duke needs. 19 points for Jeremy Roach. That's his 5th consecutive game with 18 or more. People are starting to talk about, Quinn Cook said he was better than him when comparisons were drawn. I don't know about that yet. And I even saw some people talking about he could have Nolan Smith's senior season numbers. Let's give it a little time to breathe. But what I do know is that Jeremy Roach is doing extremely well. And I need some sort of written apology from the people in the offseason that were like, Jeremy Roach doesn't need to come back. He's done everything he can. He's hit his ceiling as a Duke basketball player. He'd only be like the fourth or fifth option on the team anyway. Some people even being like, yeah, he wouldn't even start. Preseason, people were still saying fourth or fifth option on the team. And I'm thinking, sure, fourth or fifth option. Jeremy Roach is the second option on this team. I said he was the second option then. Before he even decided to come back, I said he's the second option preseason, and I'm saying he's the second option now. He is an elite scorer, and the one thing I've learned is never doubt your returning four-year starter senior captain.
Want to join a community of Duke accounts publishing news, theories, and predictions on Duke athletics? Join the Duke Wisdom Network. Just go to dukewisdom.org/join network today and fill out the form with your name and social media. Or you can DM at Duke_Wisdom on Twitter or Instagram. Become a part of the community of Duke fans publishing their takes today. Again, that's dukewisdom.org/join network or DM at Duke_Wisdom on Twitter or Instagram.
And then, so Jeremy Roach, I think is one of the most important players on this team. He's the heart and soul, and I think for years people have always been like, we need that Quinn Cook. You know, what are we missing? We're missing Quinn Cook. The 2019 team had Zion Williamson, RJ Barrett, Cam Reddish, Trey Jones. What they didn't have was a senior leader who could also go get a bucket. And that was Quinn Cook for the 2015 team. When you have young teams, you need a guy like that. The 2022 team had guys. They had guys that had been around, Wendell Moore, Mark Williams, Jeremy Roach at the time, but they didn't have the senior, Maybe that was the dividing line between Final Four and national champion. Because when you put them out there in those unprecedented games with unprecedented pressure, like they had against North Carolina in the final home game and in the Final Four, what helps is to have at least a guy who maybe has not been in that situation, but he's been in more situations. He's a little more poised because he's been fine-tuned through time. And that's what a senior captain is. And when you have a senior captain that can go get buckets the way that Quinn Cook could, the way that John Scheyer could, the way that Jeremy Roach can, you've got something really good on your hands. And that's why I didn't understand the people that said, Jeremy Roach, we don't need him to come back. I was always so confused by that. I said, you really want to take these two freshman guards and then Tyrese Proctor, who played a lot like a freshman. He was a freshman guard to a T last season. He was not polished. He still isn't. Jeremy Roach to me was this at least the second biggest, if not like right there, 1A, 1B biggest acquisitions in the offseason with Kyle Filipowski. He is so, so important for this team. When Jeremy Roach plays well, Duke is hard to beat. And I posted something about Mr. December the other day with Jalen Blakes. Now, he played 25 minutes. He had 4 points against Hofstra. So Jalen Blakes averages, before that game, before the Hofstra game, he averaged 7 points per game in December of this year. He averaged like 8.4, I think, or 8, in December of last year. The only other month he's averaged higher than 1.7 points per game in his entire career so far is November 2022, where he averaged 4.8. So the only time he's averaged more than 5, both happened in the months of December. So So Jalen Blakes is Mr. December. Jeremy Roach, however, might be Mr. March. We saw it in 2022, hitting huge shots against Michigan State, Texas Tech. He was just huge in the NCAA tournament. He's got ice in his veins, man. Hit big shots against Miami and Virginia in the ACC tournament last year. He's going to be the guy hitting the shots at the end of the game if Duke wants to make a deep run in the NCAA tournament. He's so important for this team. He's going to be huge in that Baylor game. And for everybody that doubted him, your handwritten apologies are accepted. Now, moving on to the bench. Sean Stewart played 3 minutes. Okay, yeah, 3 minutes. Every episode I talk about how he should play more, but I get it. I get that he fouls a lot, that he's certainly not polished by any means. And you're giving up some stuff by putting him in the game, but how's he going to get better? I know practice, I get it. Man, it feels like he needs to see the floor more. It feels like at this point he's not going to see it at all toward the end of the year, and there's going to be a lot of weight on his shoulders, assuming Kyle Filipowski doesn't return to school, which I'm not going to say 100% certainly that's going to happen, but I think there's a good chance he goes to the NBA after this season. If that's the case, there's going to be a lot of weight on Sean Stewart's shoulders, and that's what I'm worried about. I think Sean has a lot of value to this team, but he's going to have a whole lot of value to next year's team, and next year's team will be way better off if Sean gets more run than 3 minutes in a game that Duke wins by over 20. TJ Power played 9 minutes, didn't shoot a single time. That's a problem. TJ Power plays for 3 minutes. He should have already attempted a three-pointer. Plays for 6. He should attempt maybe 2. Plays for 9 minutes. Honestly, he should have at least 2 3-point attempts in 9 minutes, maybe even more, because that's just what he's there to do. And somebody said, well, he gave up. I think it was Russ, Duke Better, said he gave up 8 points in like the span of 3 possessions. Well, that would be fine if they let him. Not fine. Don't get me wrong, not fine. But it would have been a lot better if he was getting, play actions called for him to free up 3-pointers so he can get 6 points, 9 points. Because he's a phenomenal shooter. TJ Power's going out there and he's not shooting. I don't know why he's playing. That's my biggest complaint there. Ryan Young played 2 freaking minutes, man. Are we currently witnessing the phasing out of Ryan Young from the rotation? It kind of feels that way. It really kind of feels that way. Ryan Young with a fat goose egg now averages 2 points per game, and I'm stunned. I don't know what to say. I never thought John would phase Ryan out, especially not this early in the season. But here we are. He's basically been like, look, Kyle and Mark, they got this. He's not playing Sean either, so he's just like, Kyle and Mark got this. Then guards. But the way he used Kyle in this Hofstra game, I can see the guard thing working a little bit better. And so if we get a little bit better action from these guards, maybe we're looking at a little bit more movement from Filipowski and Mitchell, a little bit more action from the guards. We're looking at maybe this can work without as many minutes from Stewart or Young. Maybe. We'll see. And I think it's really going to be put to the test against the Baylor Bears. Baylor, said it a million times, biggest game for the rest of the season, because it comes at a very pivotal moment for Duke in this season where they feel like they need a big win. Baylor's ranked 6th in the AP poll. They're also ranked 6th on KenPom. They're 9-0. They have the number 2 adjusted offense in the country. 42nd in defense as well. For reference, Duke is 10th in adjusted offense, which I low-key don't believe. And then 37th in defense. But it's going to be tough stopping Baylor. There's no doubt in my mind that this is going to be a really, really difficult game for Duke. Thankfully for the Blue Devils, they get Baylor in Duke North in Madison Square Garden, which is nice. They will probably have the fan advantage there. Duke traditionally does not play well around these sort of exam period times, and they've got an 8-day rest beforehand. Baylor has just 4 days in between their game that they have prior. They play this Saturday against Michigan State. And while I'm tempted to be like, well, let's hope Michigan State gets that win. Makes Duke's win over Michigan State look better. Nah, Duke's win over Michigan State might already be shot. Michigan State's not doing good at all. At all. But Duke could get a win over Baylor, who could be 10-0. And I honestly think they might let their guard down a little bit if they beat Michigan State. They lose to Michigan State. I have my doubts that Baylor loses 2 straight games. It's going to make Duke's job a lot harder So I think it is in Duke's best interest that Baylor beats Michigan State and remains undefeated. Jacoby Walter, going to be a difficult player to stop for Duke's backcourt. 6'5" freshman, is a killer. 15 points per game. He leads Baylor in scoring. And then Ray J. Dennis as well, another guard there in the backcourt, averaging 14 points and then 6.6 assists per game is a really solid mark for him. The guards are big they're good for Baylor. Duke has good guards as well, maybe a little less so with Tyrese Proctor out. But Jeremy Roach has been the truth recently, and if he continues to play the way he's played, if Jared McCain continues to play the way he has played, Duke can try to match that. Where Duke might have an advantage is, well, scoring-wise at least, is in the paint. Kyle Filipowski. Kyle's going to have to be tough, man. He's going to have to play a tough game. And he's going to have to play tough, and Jeremy Roach is going to have to play the same way he's been playing for the last few weeks. If they can get that to happen, then Duke can come out of Madison Square Garden with their biggest win of the season, their biggest available win for the rest of the season, and really put themselves in a position to be viewed as a national contender once again. I think that they are getting better. They're getting better. Do I think that they're at the point where they're necessarily a better team than Baylor? I don't know. But can they win the game? Absolutely. And if they can win that game, they can go into conference play with a lot more confidence, looking a lot better, and get to a point where I really feel like this Duke team can shine. So, huge matchup coming up on the 20th, next Wednesday. But for now, Duke has 2 straight wins after they had suffered 2 straight losses, and they played their best basketball of the season against Hofstra. It's a time to celebrate, and hopefully the Duke Blue Devils are on a 3-game winning streak heading into Christmas. Thanks so much for listening once again, guys. Sorry it's a day late, but I hope you enjoyed listening nonetheless. Make sure to follow and subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen. Follow Duke_Wisdom on Instagram and Twitter. And check us out for the next episode coming next week. Thanks for listening.